Hey, this is Jason J. Lewis, Superman from Justice League Action, and you're watching SuperWonder Legacy.
You're strong.
I know.
You a sight for sore eyes.
It's nice to have someone who likes you for being you.
It's okay. I've got you now.
Just like in the movies.
Welcome to SuperWonder Legacy. I am Jared. I am here with Britt. What's up, Britt?
Hello, hello.
And today we are discussing yet another Elseworlds. What's up, Cameron? We're discussing yet another occasion when another company has a Superman and or Wonder Woman character and puts them together. It's almost like the other studios are trying to tell DC, hey, grow a pair.
Yeah, but that's just they don't have any to begin with, and
I love how I'm trying to be. Yeah, I love how. So this is the way Britt and my partnership works. Whenever I'm trying to be diplomatic, Britt isn't, and when she's trying to be diplomatic, I'm not. It's hilarious how we're never in sync on that.
It depends on what it is, Sometimes we twinsies, and then other times it's kind of like, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So we're talking about Supreme and Glory, and the characters created by Rob Liefeld of all people. So you know that people are probably, as you can see in that image, people are going to have ridiculously jacked bodies, and the girls are going to have huge boobs. Oh, and also no feet.
Let's get into talking about the costumes first.
Well, here we go. Yeah, go ahead.
So you have the guys that are, super jacked, like they've been on steroids and in the gym for like 365 days, 24/7. And you have the exaggerated cape. It's the 90s, so you have exaggerations, and he really took the title of it being extreme comics. And then you have the women that look like they have no rib cages whatsoever. And you have the purse peak in the front,
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the cleavage, yes, the deep plunge, and some. And then you have the thonkini, and it's just like, what is this like? I mean, you can have a bathing suit. Like Diana has a bathing suit, but in practical terms, it's riding up and it's uncomfortable.
Well, here's the thing, Britt. Have you seen the way Deodato drew Wonder Woman around this time period, like in the Artemis story? That was just the way that Image well, because here's the thing. With Image Comics, it was coming out because the thing is like at this point, Marvel had really pissed off their top artists, which is like Liefeld, McFarlane, Jim Lee, and they were being very oppressive on what they could do. So the guys were like, okay, so let's leave and just draw comics the way we would want to. And Rob was the one that's like hyper. The only thing that isn't part of the Supreme costume, but is very much a Rob Liefeld thing, is a ridiculous amount of pouches.
Well, I mean, I'm glad you already have a ridiculously amount of muscle.
Well, yeah, that's true. And it was, and it's because now here's the thing. It's like, it's exaggerated, yeah, but then again, it's like superheroes and they're supposed to be like godly beings. So that's why I kind of allow that.
I'm not allowing a toothpick of a woman like that. That is just kind of like, as I said, no rib cage whatsoever. Like, and it's, you see why they have restrictions, because again, no one is going to be running around in a thong, you know, like trying to fight villains. That's It's over sexualizing, a woman. That's too much. Yes, you're
But
supposed to
again,
have
it's
the
the 90s.
liberation. Yeah, you do supposed to have the liberation and feel good about your body and stuff like that. But it set expectations, and it also just had these, you know, it definitely felt like all boys club comics though.
Well, that's because that's what a lot of like Image Comics was the hyper masculine, like comic book, like way of drawing things, which I liked. It's pretty interesting. I read these books for the plot, Britt, for the plot. But so tell us about Supreme and Glory.
Okay. So, well, first with our who's who, we know who Superman and Wonder Woman. They are the flagship icons, DC's flagship icons. This long flirt with romantic pair that it has been in mainstream, as I have said multiple times in their history. It started from pre-crisis and post-crisis fumbled terribly. Then you have New 52, which DC fumbled again. Um, then regurgitation or afterbirth, whatever you want to call it, just is a mess. So we go to Elseworlds. And that is where the relationship truly thrived. And I think this is where also a lot of the other creators got the idea. They know it's a popular idea. They know that it's a it has so much storytelling, and they want that. But you do have these restrictions because you're going on tradition. And what type of relationship is, acceptable and easy is the hero and civilian type thing where, you got to be Captain Save a Thought all the time. Or in the case of the female character, she either has to be independent or um, basically has to have a loser as a significant other.
Yeah, exactly. And by the way, so the other thing that's really fun about this is that I do love to see, like, because obviously I'm approaching this now as like a comic book creator myself who created my own like pastiche of Wonder Woman. And it always interests me to see how other creators take in those clear inspirations, but tweak it so it's not like a rip off. And you know what? I do like, and it's a good thing that like I have the Wonder Woman image and the Glory image side to side, because it definitely shows that, like, yeah, you can clearly tell she is like a Wonder Woman inspired character, but it's different enough that it's not a rip off.
I mean, the colors, but yeah, the bathing suit or whatever that is definitely, I mean, yeah.
But here's the difference, though. This is like his character, so it's like he can do whatever the hell he wants with like his characters. So it's like, all right, fine. You don't have to support it.
True. I mean, true. It is a little bit more accepting than, say, um, maybe Ed Ben's,
Oh
but
yeah. Oh, by the way, so he's doing the so you know how so Image recently brought back Witchblade, which is really good, but they're bringing back the like her male character, the Darkness, and I go, oh, it's drawn by Ed Bennis. There was gonna be cheesecake up the yin yang with this. Anyone
right.
that wants to know what I'm talking about, read Justice League, where Wonder Woman is like up like this and her boobs are like, ugh.
Just right in your face. Yes, and you have to have the backside shot too. Like
And
you
Superman
can't.
is like, baseball, cold showers.
Right. So yeah, you have Supreme and Glory, which obviously variants of Superman and Wonder Woman. They lean more to the Silver Age,
Mhm.
type feel. And honestly, of course, if you're going extreme, you're exaggerating things. So it is going to have that Silver Age feel.
Yeah,
Now,
exactly. Exactly. And Liefeld is one of those guys that like really likes that more classical feel of the characters.
right, and the ones that is not only just the classic feel, but it's also the zaniness of it,
Yeah.
that you can really take the risk. So with those risks, um, their relationship is very much that on and off, um, a little bit of the toxic side, and also, you know how Goku stays gone for like weeks, months, years, or whatever away from Chi Chi, because he's
Oh,
fighting and stuff like that. Well, that's basically what Supreme does to Glory. He's very dedicated to being a superhero. He stays gone for a while, then he comes back and acts like it's okay. So that really, kind of breaks her heart, and she feels used at some point. And then she's also, because this is more of Supreme is obviously the main character. That's one of the differences is that Glory is still a supporting character. She isn't exactly her own. She has had solo books,
mhm.
but she's still under basically the umbrella of Supreme.
Yeah,
And
exactly. And by Britt, I just want to remind you, I have never watched Dragon Ball.
what?
That pause, that's exactly how I felt when you told me you'd never seen like the Aliens and Predator movies.
That's different because that's a whole little niche right there.
Oh, really? How
But
about Star Wars?
now that is my choice of not watching that because that's a whole different, like,
That's that's your choice.
that is my choice. But
Oh my
because
gosh.
that's a total different, like, yeah, with the reboots or whatever they have, I'm not following all
Orange Avenger is like, never watched Dragon Ball. How do you live under rocks? Well, I'm not really an anime guy. Britt can tell you that.
that.
Well, remember, it's like when you look at some of the anime, yes, exactly, the silence. When you look at like some of the content that anime does put out, because I do follow some accounts that like show like clips from animes, I'm like, the hell is this?
I have to get you cultured. Jared, I have to get you cultured. Yeah.
Well, let's put it this way: we have to get each other's cultures. Remember, I saw. So for payback for that Aliens versus Predator episode, she makes me watch Jeepers Creepers, and let me tell you this: it is the strangest man bat movie I have ever seen.
Come on, but was it scary though?
No, absolutely not. You could clearly
Exactly.
tell it was like fake, but I gotta tell you, it's another horror movie where the protagonists act like total freaking morons.
Well, that's in every scary movie because you have to have, them do just the utmost, just like they turn off their brain just to get caught and die. So,
Well,
yeah, it
remember,
is what it
Britt.
is.
Well, Britt, remember, any horror movie ends if the protagonists have guns.
I mean, it all depends because we saw with Big G that the gun didn't exactly work, you know.
Because no one shot. Because here's the thing: no one went for the head. Shoot him in the freaking face. Shoot him in the
And
face.
then
Chop him up into pieces, and put those pieces on opposite ends of the freaking continent. Obviously, I'm a little salty at this because in that last 10 minutes of that second movie, we only watched the first two, is like one of the most mind-numbingly stupid parts I've ever seen.
Well, like I said, you have to have a contrivance in order for it to be yet another sequel.
In order for it to be a sequel, I know, but regardless, I enjoyed it. But still, it's like, yes, I know you have to get me cultured, but it's like, remember, you have to be very careful when it comes to anime, because remember, we did a CLD episode a while back about the other co-host explaining to me animes, and it's like the minute they explain to me the plot of like student teacher, I'm like, what?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of yeah.
I don't want the FBI to be banging down my door. I swear I'm just watching anime. And then as soon as the FBI agent is leaving, he turns to me. He turns and looks at my room and goes,
Dweeb.
that would be it. But
the thing is,
yeah.
with anime, you don't know what you're gonna get because the titles are very deceiving. It was one that was like something about a happy. It was something with the title happy, and it was actually a very psychotic horror. So
Well,
that
here's the thing. I have watched anime because I've watched the anime tie-in movies for like Mass Effect and Halo and such. And I guess, does Blood of Zeus count?
somewhat, yeah.
Somewhat. So I guess I have seen some anime. It's just, also there's the Terminator anime and the very, very, very strange and oddly horrible Godzilla anime on Netflix. I'll tell you more about that after we do this, Britt. But so tell me about the higher level similarities between these two couples.
Okay, so with that, of course, as we said, there are um they have similar powers, because they
Mm-hmm.
are, you know, rip-offs, but just different color schemes of their uniforms. They do have that natural sense of responsibility, in the public expectations. They, but as I said, with this being, still tilting towards the creator owned type thing, it's you can delve into those conflicts, more than what we had with Superman and Wonder Woman. And that pretty much our basis is what Sewell gave us, how he wanted to have their relationship as this public talking point. And honestly, ever since that was introduced, and I would say that even going back to reading Perez, and we saw that as a conflict conflict point too, with Mindy. It's like, yeah, Clark and Diana's relationship should be that celebrity relationship that you see, um, but they're very private about it, or just playing on the media. And overall in New 52, they had News 52, and that was something
Mm-hmm.
that, was played upon as well. It was actually being cultured within the time of how high the paparazzi and, um, celebrities being followed and things like that. But Clark and Diana remained humble. With this, you can essentially explore that a little bit more with these different characters. Does it have the same effect? Well, it has the effect in their world, but you could really feel it if it were to, have that unlimited creative, narrative with Clark and Diana.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
then you also have as we said, you know, balancing the domestic life with the larger than life type thing. That they do have a daughter, Supreme and Glory. Her timeline and everything is a little screwed. Um, I was very confused because on one end her name was like Chelsea, and then she had the name Probe or something, and then it was Suprema. I was like, oh, you really snatched, everything from DC with, with the callback.
Including a confusing timeline.
Right. Her name, I saw, yeah, the name Suprema, but then it ended up being Suprema as Supreme's sister or something. So yeah, it was very confusing. But yeah, they still end up with a daughter. And again, we have Clark and Diana, with kids in Elseworlds, but they never really explore them in depth.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's like that's one of the reasons why I really enjoy like Image stuff, because you can get away with so much more, because a lot of this stuff is like creator owned. Image just acts as an intermediary to like publish the book and such.
Right. And again, I'm sorry, her name, well, yeah, it was Probe, Suprema, and Lady Supreme. Yeah, that whole thing, I didn't even want to delve into much of the timeline, and that's very accurate to DC.
Mm-hmm. Oh
But
yeah,
it's still,
exactly.
it seemed like she was probably a time displaced daughter too, or something.
So
So
essentially, she's new 52 Donna Troy if Charles Sewell had his way.
honestly, I was like, yeah. I was, it was like, this should have been New 52 Donna or whatever they wanted to name her. But yeah, obviously, even though this was done in the 90s and New 52 was 2010s, it's still the fact that that storyline is there. And I would say that that also comes from Aiko too. With Clark and Diana have this daughter. They're living incognito in Japan, but it's still that larger than life mixed with domestic responsibilities. And that's something that they can do. And it's not something that they have to choose one or the other uh, from.
Yeah, exactly. So then we get to the core templates and origin.
So, again, Superman, he's an alien immigrant who represents hope. And yes, he is an immigrant, DC. And everybody else
Mm-hmm.
who does not respect that aspect of him.
Clearly has never read a Superman comic.
Right. Wonder Woman, she is this mythic Amazon warrior and ambassador. She represents love and compassion. And the pairing emphasizes cultural um, contrast, but also acceptance and bridging worlds and cultures together. You have, Clark's Midwest upbringing, adoptive upbringing, and then Themyscira of Diana really embracing her culture.
Yeah, exactly.
And again, it's has evolved over the years, as we've gone through, but it's kind of like it's not it's always these starts and stops, and it's never something that is ongoing enough to satisfy, the fandom. And it feels like the only time DC wants to give the pair spotlight is if it needs sales boost, or some type of news spectacle.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, well, it's because here's the thing. It's like, this is the problem that like DC is running into, because they keep trying to try stuff with KO. The other thing about KO is that it's coming out over the course of 8 months. So this supposedly small event that was supposed to be just about the superheroes fighting, okay, it's fine, is now happening over the course of like a little over half a year.
I don't think DC had a plan after that. That's why.
Ah, okay. I
I
see.
I honestly think that a lot of this was extended, um, because I mean, even if they rebooted Batman, but that's your only means of sales. Yeah, the Absolute line has its books, but
How long is that going to last, though?
exactly, it's only the year. It's year two is ramping up, but if we look at New 52, I would say by the third year, we will actually see if it has that longevity. Because yeah, the first year is always with the shiny new ones and the um hyped up storylines. So I really don't count the first year. The second year is 50-50,
Yeah,
but that third year really tells you um basically the make or break.
exactly. And it's like with this is like inevitable. It's like inevitably any like any big thing like again like Absolute or New 52 is gonna out overstay its welcome with the fan base, and then it's like the minute Absolute has that and like it like crashes because everything crashes. That's when I think DC, or they could already be considering it, and that's why they delayed it so significantly. It could be that that's when DC completely hard resets.
I mean, that is the only thing that you have that's keeping them afloat. Your main line is sinking. Um, Snyder, he did post the sales, but I'm like, those are all your books. So that
Those are
really
all
doesn't
your
count.
stuff. You're selling well. It doesn't mean the entire line is doing well.
Line is
Have
selling,
you
yes.
seen Wonder Woman? Have you seen that Adventures of Superman book, which didn't even chart?
Exactly. Which I'm very surprised because, well,
Oh,
that
Britt,
just
you should have seen
clearly,
me. I was constantly like command effing. I was doing it over and over and over again because I didn't believe it. I'm like, there's no way this didn't chart. There's no way it didn't chart.
exactly, especially the fact that Johnson is, on Twitter proclaimed to be the best Superman writer, the especially with War World and having the suit and
Well, here's the problem, Britt. This is a continuation of a story for Future State. And it's like, I thought we're done with this story.
right, and well, it's the fact that he wanted to tell this long story and basically cement the future of Space Zeus.
Which you
Um,
can't do because in comic books, there's a possible futures, and they even label Future State as that, a possible future.
right. But also with introducing twins and trying to establish them, but no one really cares to write them even outside.
Yeah.
Um, but it's the fact that you still have Twitter fans who, you know, um, ask for these characters. And the editor of the Superman books, he said that they've been asking about the twins and everything like that. And once it's time to support the very book that has them, dedicated to them, it doesn't chart. Are you serious?
Yeah, it does in chart. That is hilarious. And Randy brings up an excellent point about this. The problem is nostalgia can only go so far if so far it's not something you can depend on long term. Look at what happened with Rebirth. That's why Rebirth crashed, because it's like that's all nostalgia. And that's why inevitably and Cameron, I forgot the twins. Yeah, you would only know them if you read like the PKJ Superman book that went on for I think a year or so of Dawn of DC. But it's like, yeah, if you don't feature those characters that much, and if you're continuing a story that DC has since moved on from, what do you? It's like when the book was announced, I was like, but no, to be clear, I like the story so far, but it's like even I'm like, while I like the story, honestly, I feel like it shouldn't have been told. It shouldn't have been done because we're beyond the point when that story is relevant.
I think again, it's the fact that um, it, Johnson had said that he wanted to be on Superman for a very long time, like 25 years or so. Kind of like what happened in the 90s or so. Um, and of course, that's the same thing as, King saying that he wants to be on Wonder Woman for 100 issues.
Sure, bro. Sure, bro. Enjoy your demon daughter.
Right. So, they have these ambitious goals, but that's the difference with having this story in mind, the plot points or whatever like that, but actually writing it in, every detail and things like that. That's a total different thing. And that we saw how, well, King, honestly, he never had a story for Wonder Woman in the first place. So it's
He
a
never has a
glacier.
story for any of the characters. He always
True.
tries to enforce the characters into the story, and there's a big difference there.
Right. So it's very decompressed and, glacier pace. And Johnson did the same thing with his Superman um War World saga. Is after a while he started to drag it on, and he wanted to establish twins and everything like that as this star child and red sun or whatever. And also with his future state, um the descendants, and trying to bring in these OCs. Yeah, he got praised for them for
And
being the
they only
OC.
exist because DC is too wussy to DH John.
Right. And it's kind of like, but honestly, even in his future state, you see nothing about um the twins.
Yeah, you know what's hilarious? What I noticed for is that yesterday I read the Treasury book, and John is very much a kid in this.
Yeah, of course, because that was written by Jurgens, and
Yeah,
Jurgens, um, I would say that that story is actually kind of like you could say it's a flashback story.
well, it definitely is now because he's a kid in that story. So I'm like,
Yeah,
yeah,
but honestly, that is unfair because they're trying to piece together and force in stories now as John as a kid to make it seem like he has always existed.
which is hilarious because whenever they tried to do that after Super Sons flopped, it's like when you look at the sales thing, and we didn't. There was one of our earliest episodes, Britt, in the teens, I think. But it's like when we talked about John, when you look at the sales, every subsequent time they tried to restart the Super Sons book, it sold less and less and less and less. It's almost
Hmm.
like it's almost like it's almost like the fan base is like when DC routinely gave you multiple opportunities to vote with your wallet and say, yes, we want John to be a kid or we like John. Guess what? You didn't, you in large part didn't show up.
Right, because they are only, fussing and stuff on the Bird app, but when it comes to actually supporting books,
They
it's
don't, they
either
pirate it.
right. And honestly, pirating is okay because whether they don't have the funds or they don't have the access. Um,
But they then cannot try and say, I think DC should go like this. Like, if you're gonna pirate it, fine, I get it. But it's like then do not try and say this is the way DC should be.
exactly, because DC is going to take that and they're going to think, oh, well, if this is what if this is what the fans want, then we give them that and they're going to actually buy it. I mean, even some of the fans that who are guilty of that, in a sense, they do manipulate the whole thing, and it's like we will buy this whatever status quo or this character, and then again, when you see the sales and whether it's a very low debut or the book doesn't chart at all, it's kind of like, oh, so you just manipulated DC to give you what you want, and that is how DC continues to be stuck in the same position that they are that forced them to reboot in the first place.
Rebirth.
Well,
that's what the Twitter people were trying to go. And I go, guys, it's like, that doesn't, it didn't actually work. Cameron says, I pirate, but I support the books as much as I can by supporting creators like you and Britt. Well, yeah, it's like with me, I only go to those sites if the book is not on the DC app and I want to have the visuals up while I like do this, because I spend about $200 to $300 a month on comics. So it's like, if anyone can say I think DC should go in this direction, I'm pretty sure I'm one of those people.
right, you have that right because you are actually buying the books. Yes.
So yeah, there is that. But anyway, so to tell us more about the core template and origin of Supreme and Glory.
Okay, so the whole exaggeration of the early 90s, and riffing off the Silver Age tropes. So what happened was it wasn't exactly stable with the background and things. You have the designs of the characters, but the characteristics where the storylines would go, the supporting cast and everything, that was in a flux. So Alan Moore came in and later retooled Supreme to be more of a even closer to the Silver Age Superman. And he did touch on Supreme in Glory, and he's the one that basically included their daughter in, some of the stories. What's funny about Alan Moore being a part of this is the fact that some fans want to use For the Man who has everything and say that, oh, you see, he's saying that they aren't supposed to be together. Well, no, that was very much a thing where it's like, to say that it's predictable is kind of like, yeah, it's an obvious thing. They will end up being together, kissing or whatever like that. It was supposed to be taken as some lighthearted, like if you are basically watching Justice League action, we saw how campy and funny that was. So it wasn't taken serious of to say no to the relationship, especially when Alan Moore is also responsible of Twilight of the Superheroes. Where
Also, if you look at the dream that Superman had when he was under the influence of the Black Mercy, guess who he wasn't with?
right.
So so if the Black Mercy is supposed to show your innermost desire, looks like Lois isn't one of them. Isn't
Right.
it interesting how DC gets, it's kind of funny. It's like DC is like in a hostage video and they're trying to blink and give their location.
Yeah, it is. It's a very fecal type of situation. You do have some people who love the Triangle of Two, which is kind of, very outdated and needs to be buried. You have people who care for the marriage only because they want to live vicariously through Superman as like this American dad poster boy or whatever. And then you have people who want him single and just having these random romances that really doesn't have any type of like consequences in a way. It's just going back to the Silver Age and stuff and having fun with it. And this is basically what Supreme was. Uh, Despite giving them, the daughter, like I said, they still went back and forth, still had that emotional conflict of not trying to completely commit. And as I said, Alan Moore still had Clark and Diana together in Twilight of the Superheroes and also in here. A lot of these um creators, they might, even though he didn't, concretely talk against Clark and Diana's relationship as some fans would think, even if a creator does talk against it, it says a lot when they create these ripoffs, and it's the same thing of a Clark and Diana's relationship.
Yep.
Like Astro City, with Winged Victory and Samaritan.
Hmm.
Um, the creator of that, I believe it was on Twitter that a fan asked about his influence of Superman and Wonder Woman's relationship. And he actually denied it, saying that no, they they aren't, you know, Clark and Diana's relationship, whatever. And it was kind of interesting to see because it's like, okay, so how is that when you win Victory? She's not from an island. She is a regular woman, but she gets the powers and she does um go to an island or whatever that's pretty resembles Themyscira. And then Samaritan definitely resembles Superman as he is a reporter. You know, he just has a blue hair. He is from another planet or whatever. And they have this public relationship being of a trinity and everything like that. So how can you say that it's not, influenced by their relationship or a ripoff or something like that? How can you not think of Superman and Wonder Woman's relationship while you're writing them in a different font or whatever?
Hmm. Yeah, exactly. Or it's like again, it's like or like Mark Millar with the Jupiter's Legacy having the utopian and I forget what the woman's name is, or like any of these Superman and Wonder Woman like characters because aesthetically it looks good. But anyway, so then we get to the power balance and equality because I've long said on this show that Super Wonder, when you really get down to it, represents the ultimate in gender equality because neither of them are more powerful than the other. They're both on the same playing field.
Right. So with here is basically exactly that. You're going between being the um both being protectors, then the hero civilian, protector and the protected type thing. They do have these differences, but it's very complementary and they are of equal power. But it's not just power physically, it's more of their mental power, emotional power, and just making those decisions together and making those sacrifices together.
Yeah, exactly. So then we get to let's talk about the public identities and publicity consequences of both.
So again, with Clark and Diana's relationship, they are very much public figures. Um, as I said earlier, you see it in Charles Sewell book where the relationship becomes public and they have to deal with that. We only got a little bit of that, wish we could have gotten more of maybe Clark and Diana just publicly being together, I don't know, not I wouldn't want them flying above,
Mm-hmm.
but more so, they would walk the streets in their uniform and, being around the people together. So that would have been something really nice to see and to show how humble they are and very much, ingrained within the communities.
Yeah.
They it does lean on getting a little bit political. Um, I would say, although I don't like to reference Jeff Johns too much because he kind of a little bit of caused the downward of their relationship, but an issue what was that was it 13 I think or I don't think it was after the Atlantis issue, but it was the issue where Clark and Diana ends up in a foreign country to save the hostages.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. That I love that one because it's like the hostage takers are like, how do we gain 2 hostages?
Yes. Well, and Diana pretty much says, yeah, we are doing our job. As how are we, call ourselves heroes if we aren't helping around the globe? And then for Batman to basically say, oh, this is what supervillains would say. No, it's not.
No. That's not what he said. This is after Wonder Woman had said, "No one could stop us, Clark."
I mean,
That's
it's still
very
the same
different, though.
thing.
That's very different, though. Let's be fair.
That's still, that's why I don't want to give credit to Jeff Jones, because the way he wrote it is, it would be taken out of context, not only from a story perspective like Batman, was written to, but
Also,
also the readers.
I'm looking at the page right now because I have the trade. And so Batman does say supervillains say that, Diana. Superman says, that's not what she meant. And then Batman goes, yeah, I do, but people won't. Yeah, that's right. It's like he says, I know you won't do it, but it's like, if you say this stuff in front of the public, they may not be as, because they don't know you two like I do.
Is it the public or is it the government? That's the thing.
Both.
I don't know.
But the point is, Britt, let's be fair. Batman is not Batman admits, I know you would never do that.
I mean, you still got a little bit of Batman says this and that, so whatever. But it's still, case in point, is that you have this plot point that could have extended a little bit more, where Clark and Diana, regardless of the government trying to stop them, that's right. They don't have anyone to stop them because they aren't abusing their powers. The problem is the government is trying to limit their power, and they know that they want to help globally. But why should they be restricted to just helping Americans? When that is not who they that's not just who they represent. Just because they are in Justice League of America or whatever, or American heroes, they aren't that. Batman, he has Gotham. Flash has his city. Martian Manhunter is, well, kind of global too, but truly Superman and Wonder Woman, and Aquaman has the ocean, but Superman and Wonder Woman, as we've said on numerous of episodes, they are global. They should be global. They should not be just the American heroes. They should be, go around the world as travelers and represent everyone. And that's something that clearly we are missing, because if we had that, we wouldn't have a movie that basically screws over Superman's immigrant allegory.
Exactly. By the way, Cameron brings up a good point. This is the quote by Steve Trevor. You two being together scares people. You are the most powerful beings on earth. No one can stop you if you want to kill us. Don't show that to Tom King.
I mean, Tom King can't talk because he had Diana basically forget that her sisters were in prison, trafficked, and murdered, all for a flag and a military dude. So,
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, so then we get to the on again, off again nature of the relationship, because that's the other similarity of Supreme and Glory and Superman and Wonder Woman, because Superman and Wonder Woman, the on again, off again part comes with the flirting, and because it's again, it's short of New 52 in canon, they've never really been together. However, it's they've they've hinted that they like each other, whereas with Supreme and Glory, they have straight up been together.
Okay, so with Clark and Diana, it's complicated. So we have pre-crisis where Barry is saying when the basically the mod era where Diana loses her powers and um Barry says he thought that Clark and Diana would get married. Then you have Perez, where he wanted them to actually be together. And it's even, I talked to Jid about this actually. We go back and forth, and it was like, there's no way that in Perez, sort of way, he didn't complete his story of having Clark and Diana together, even for a night or so. Because the way you know, it's set up is that Clark is fiercely protective of Diana. And even in War of the Gods, he says that he almost fell for her, but he was devastated. And you can tell the difference of how editorial limited, some sort of things, but it was just there that they were friends, but at the same time, it was something more. And that's pretty much what Perez established. Regardless of anything, they would have these feelings that would come up, every time they're together. It was also parts where it's like they wanted to call each other but didn't. And so they would go a long period of time and feel guilty about it, of not calling each other.
Yeah.
And you also have where even Jimenez, no, not Jimenez, I'm sorry, Luke, when he has Diana with her, with the Wonder Dome, and you see the statue of her and Clark kissing, and you have them also sharing a dream together where they are married and expecting, and it's also a callback to Perez Run, where that is basically their relationship. It should have started right there. Clark having an interview, Clark going to the mascara because Diana also invited him there. You know, just things like that within post crisis really shows that their relationship was much deeper, but it was something that was held back by editorial. And you also have the interview in the special issue, George Perez Tribute Edition, back issue, where he says that he wanted to redo Action Comics 600.
As you should.
And yeah, and he basically wanted to have Diana realize that, she did put expectations on Clark. Just the way she was brought up and having the gods and everything like that, she did have high expectations. So once she goes through, actually learning life and relationships and, understanding her feelings, she tempered them a little bit and she now wants to give Clark a chance. And Clark, he also felt that rush and embarrassment, cold feet, and he gets over that and they can, try to be a couple. That
Yeah.
honestly would have worked so much better than DC just letting it slide with, what Byrne had when Byrne had, his own motives of wanting Clark with Lana and this whole American, um, poster board thing. And then you have, again, editorial who is very lazy and um, they didn't want to deal with having these two franchises coming together. And then fast forward to New 52, and Tomasi pretty much admitted that he felt intimidated by Diana and it was difficult.
The hilarious part is that, so if you think that Lois is the best part of Superman, that she is like the first lady of comics, like Tomasi obviously does, you're not intimidating about writing a demon woman.
Well, no,
I'm just saying.
No, because he has her baking pies.
Literally, Britt. So actually, they did DC editorial lazy? No, say it ain't so, Britt. I know, right? Man, you learn something new every day. But it's like, so in Action 1000, there's a story where like Superman recounts that like he was sent back in time, so he has to go through all the different periods of his life. And then, yeah, it's like Lois is there with a pie. So I'm like, so if you're all about she's a very important thing to Superman, you literally make her like just there. And also, again, Jurgens and Tomasi, you guys made Superman a coward. So let's not talk about how Superman would or would not act, or like Lois.
Right. They wanted Superman to be this macho man who has the wife and the son, coming home like, I don't know, I Love Lucy or something, and
Britt, can you imagine how much more badass and honestly sexy it is if like someone tries to attack the house and then Superman is like, honey, you want to go punch something really hard? And then Diana cracks her knuckles and says, you always say the most romantic things. And then it's like they walk out of the house, and then it's like it's like Toy Man and maybe like Metallo are there, and they go, "Oh no!"
Right, you don't have to worry about Diana, and that's the thing they want.
And then Metallo goes, "I told you they were together."
That is the thing. You don't have to worry about Diana at all. And again, it's not just the physical power. It's just the fact that she does take command, and and it's not something that you have to do contrived storylines. Kind of like what was it? Not Night Terrors, but that other crossover where Lois was in the fortress and she had to like get a giant gun or something. But
you know what that was? It wasn't a crossover. That was Warworld Saga. The very beginning of Warworld, she had this giant gun because these Mongolites, that's what I call the people of Mongol, invade the fortress, and then she like locks and load with a giant gun.
But there was another scene like that, but it was still the fact that Superman had to leave, somewhere important to still save her anyway.
And Britt, if you want to talk contrived, let's talk about the most contrived thing that Tomasi has ever written, the Hellbat suit.
Right.
For those that don't know, the Eradicator attacks John Kent, so Lois gets in the Hellbat suit, which is the suit that Batman used to invade Apocalypse and beat the crap out of Darkseid to convince him to revive Damian. So Lois gets in the suit. She somehow knows how to use the suit and punches John's in the face. The suit that, by the way, siphons your life force with like apocalyptian energy. So she's killing herself. But it's like, how would she use... How would she know how to use... I guarantee you Batman does not tell people how to use his expensive war suits.
Or how does she even know it was on the moon? Like, how anything, everything.
I get... see, here's the thing. And the supporters of that type of story will go, oh, but it's comic books. You have to allow a little bit of that stuff. I'm like, no. It takes me out of the story when like there's too many loose logical threads, almost like a blind person was knitting a sweater.
Yeah, it's some things that you just can't justify. I don't care if it is fiction. It is some things it'll be different if that same logic is applied when they say, oh, Superman, he is just human, or talk about his humanity and things like that. But no, the way you talk about uphold that he's just normal, he wants a normal life, then why is Lois gaining powers? Why is she using things that no, normal human should be using then?
Yeah, exactly. It is the most stupid thing in the world. But then, so next up, let's talk about the parenthood of them having kids.
So again, Clark and Diana, main continuity. Well, when Kingdom Come was supposed to be the definitive future and end of DC, we could technically say that that was canon, so
Well, and
Jonathan,
also remember, technically Hunter Prince counts. Technically.
no,
Why? He was in continuity.
no, 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 no.
By the way, again, I love the silence followed by just one word. No.
Because, first of all, the supposed editing of his origin led to Diana being assaulted and then commit suicide just for her to be a plot device to
So that's
prop
where
up.
Tom King got that from.
Well, yeah, and then to prop up the rebirth status quo for Superman, and then to basically compare Hunter to a lost puppy. No, no, thank you.
Oh yeah, oh my god. But anyway, so it's like in continuity that it's yeah. So like KC, maybe you can count it. And obviously, when they're actually given the Millerverse, they have kids. Obviously,
Yeah, they also have the kid from Distant Fires, from what is it? It's a terrible story. Oh my gosh, I forgot the title. But the kid basically has is very powerful that he creates like this entire illusion of a city.
it was post crisis, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I have no idea.
That's a shame. I know if we talk about it, it's gonna be like,
Watch it be like the most obvious Superman story in the world, and we're like, oh. Speaking of obvious.
Act of God. Thank you.
Oh my!
Yeah.
That should have been obvious. I'm like, because he makes a building out of building blocks, but
Yeah.
A, Act of God is not canon, and B, we don't want Act of God to be canon. Because remember, Diana almost slits her wrists when she's pregnant.
Yeah, that is terrible. That's what I'm saying. I think that is why we pretty much blocked that story, the title, out of our mind.
Also, remember, Diana becomes a hardcore Christian because she lost her powers. I'm like, what?
That and Clark becomes a drunk,
Yeah,
like, it's terrible.
where like they come home, where like she comes home from being a stock trader. Diana of Themyscira becomes a stock trader, and then he's like the depressed, drunken husband that goes, "Oh, I'm sure you don't want to be with your depressed man." I'm like, I'm reading this, and she's wondering if God exists, and then I'm like, you have met gods.
Yeah, it was dumb. It was
Thank God for it being an Elseworld story, though.
True, but that still doesn't,
and QT brings up Aiko.
Yes, Aiko as well. Let me see. And of course, the unknown, other 4 children from Casey. Unknown, unnamed. And I think that is all.
Yeah, but it's like, yeah, so they have
Kelly from the Bizarro uh, comic from, I think it was 2008. Yeah, it was a Bizarro comic, and they have a daughter named Kelly.
Wait, Bizarro Superman and Wonder Woman have a kid?
No, 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 no. It was a little funny comic with multiple stories.
Oh, is
And
that the one that like has Superwoman intimidating Wonder Woman? That thing that like you always bring up?
no, not that one. It is now I have to look at that title. But it's a Bizarro comic. That's the title of it. And then within that is just multiple kind of like Silver Age stories, and one of them is that the kids of the Justice League um, basically has a field trip, like take your kids to work day type thing, and it is, um, known or implied that this little girl is their daughter, and I will look that up. I think we did mention her in our.
Also, hey, what's up, Lord Zed? He goes, "Sup, guys? Is Lois dead yet?" And then QT says, "Not yet." And then Lord Zed just says, "Damn it." We're all like that, Zed. We're all like that.
That is hilarious.
Yeah, I'm like, where is that?
Let's see. We're going searching.
Anyway, but I love that. Just be patient, bro. Your time will come. I just love how I've created the anti-lowest corner of the internet. That will always be Comics League's legacy, much like our SuperWonder legacy. I'm only kidding, but yeah. But so tell me about Supreme and Glory's daughter.
Okay, so her name is Probe, for then it's Lady Supreme or Suprema. And again, it's very confusing because he has a sister named Suprema. It just all depends on the continuities which they want to go for.
Mm-hmm.
And more, he has lots of retcons and reboots that complicate her status. Um, but they do have her, and it starts out again as an Elseworld, so what if, and she does uh end up kind of time displaced, as you mentioned earlier, like Donna would have in their main continuity at that moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And then yeah, so it's like they have the kids, and then so let's go to how creators and companies see the appeal of this pairing.
So obviously Superman and Wonder Woman very marketable. They have a line called Lovebirds. You can see all of the merchandise on Amazon under that. Um, Even if, especially when they were doing their rebirth or afterbirth transitioning, you have Paul Gutierrez perfume, his and her, with the companion comic that advertised Superman and Wonder Woman as a couple. You have, matching cell phone cases. You have T-shirts. All of this merchandise,
Right there.
regardless, right? Whether Clark and Diana are together or not, it's still very much a um, a marketing tool for them, and it's something that other companies see as well. And like I said, especially during New 52 and even the transition of Rebirth. I think that um, an anime artist actually drew for promotion of the Wonder Woman movie, the 2017 movie, Clark and Diana. So, and that's one of my favorite images of them because it's really cute and adorable, and just might remind you of one of those um, cute couple animes. You have that, and they also love recreating the DC Presents 32 issue of Superman and Wonder Woman.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just anything like that. And you also have um the Brazilian song that says Wonder Woman run away with Superman. So you have these sort of things, very some very small, some very big, that shows the appeal of the relationship and just the pairing in general, regardless of the status quo. Even though DC continuously in story reverts back to, Lois or Diana Single, Steve now, it's still the fact that outside of DC's laziness, it you know has been shown to be a marketable pair.
Mm-hmm.
And then with Extreme Comics or Image Comics, you know, they don't have Glory and Supreme marketed that way, with T-shirts or anything like that. But it is that within that, niche that you have them at least knowing that they are a couple. Whether they are together or not, it very much varies, but you still have that commitment to telling the story.
And then Luffy says, "Oh wow, Britt's mic suddenly sounds amazing." It's amazing.
Oh my gosh. I guess it depends on whether the headphones wants to be my friend or not.
So it ain't that the dichotomy of man, Britt? Ain't that the dichotomy of man? But yeah, the advantage that like Image Comics has, or like is that it's really Extreme Comics, because with Image, it's like they don't determine like editorial policy or something like that, in terms of like they can't tell you like you have to have your characters with this character or something like that. So that's the advantage, because it's all creator owned stuff. So it's hyper dependent on the creator themselves. Whereas opposed with DC, obviously, like Tomasi does not own Lois, although he can have her.
Apparently, I mean, if he is well, I would say that would be Tomasi, Jurgens, Rucka.
You can all divide it equally. But if I ran DC, I would legit just sell the comic book rights to the character for $1. I'd say that's about accurate to her actual value as a character.
Wow.
Yeah, send Lois away and let them take her. Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh, said. Oh gosh, never change. But yeah, so then we get to the reception of the fans and editorial with Superman and Wonder Woman. I love Zed. $1? That's a little expensive. All right, how about a penny? But anyway, I'll tell you what. I'll just say, just take her. I don't want her. But anyway. So it's like with the reception of like the fans, writers, and editors. So the fans is an interesting thing, because since Britt and I have been doing this show, there's been a lot more Super Wonder fans that have been coming out of the woodwork, number one. Number two, when you get to writers and editors, we know why they're anti-Super Wonder, because most of them apparently think Lois is the second coming of Jesus Christ.
I don't think it's that. I really do think it's just being lazy and feeling safer,
And nostalgia. I would say nostalgia plays a part in it.
Yeah, but it's mostly feeling safer, you know.
Yeah, you notice it's most of the older creatives that are the most like, no, he has to be with Lois. And I'm like, oh, go drink your prune juice. Yes, exactly. Go back to holding up Florida traffic.
Wow.
I'm sorry. Like this way, if you live with Florida drivers, you'd be exactly the way I would be, Britt.
Well, the traffic here and everything
Yeah,
is, yeah, it's
that's
terrible.
true. So tell us about the reception of Supreme and Glory.
Well, given that it is just, you know, like I said, she is a supporting character still for Supreme. It's not much backlash at all. It's just it is what it is. Whether they are together or not, it depends. You know, the fans already know it depends on what the story is being told. It's not anything that's a demand for them to be together,
Yeah,
or you know.
exactly, Barry. NJ. Look at the Heroes Reborn event from Jason Aaron's Avengers, and that's basically how Marvel would handle Super Wonder. But I love this. That's still too much for Lois. So Emperor Luffy says, which is funny because she actually works for Satan. And then Lord Zed says Lois is the Antichrist confirmed. And then Dave says Lois is the kind of girl you leave on the curb like an old couch. Bibbo can take her.
Wow.
God damn it, I love you guys. The Superman franchise has been in decline for decades. The Lois relationship adds no value to the franchise. Watch, we get rid of Lois, and all of a sudden the sales start to skyrocket. I'll be like, ha!
Well, that did happen with New 52.
Yeah, I know. It's almost like we have a test case of this actually happening in real life that kind of indicates that. I wonder. That is very funny. It's almost like and you notice Superman sales started to decline sharply. By the way, we have the graph when they brought it back. Isn't it kind of? I'm not a math major, but I think Lois should be eliminated from the Superman books. I don't know. I'm not a mathematician. I'm just a YouTuber. But what do you think, Britt? You're a smart person.
I surely am. And I mean, from day one, I wouldn't have gone back. That is like, if you
Luffy,
know,
Lois is cancer.
oh,
That's insulting
well,
to cancer.
that is something to be said because after all of the Lois fans or Chloe's fans saying, Super Wonder is cancer, even, or picking on Tony, especially when his wife was going through her cancer treatments,
Barry,
and
it's like
very,
speaking of toxic fans, I want to bring this up. I literally saw this as we went live. Someone had posted about how much they love Zach's movies. So someone commented, "Oh, I'm sure Zach is familiar with A Death in the Family."
some people just
Like, my God,
need to
it's really
go.
annoying.
I
I see
mean,
it, Britt. I see the Bizarro thing. I see it.
yeah.
But yeah, it's like no, I'm. But it's like, look, if you're going to like, it's like if you're going to do that, because that's a really crappy thing to do. It's like to give heat for someone just because they're writing. Because a lot of times an artist is like assigned to a book, they don't always have like time to well, actually, here's the thing. It's kind of funny. It's funny you mentioned this, Ed. It's been said that Lois is Superman's kryptonite. In other words, you just have to get to her to get to him. They're right about her being his kryptonite. It's just that it's not for the reasons they think.
I don't think I want to be called
Here's
someone's kryptonite.
Here's a parody comic, Britt. Lois is actually a like sentient shard of kryptonite that has been weakening Superman for decades.
That would make sense.
Yeah, I know. I love being petty. It's so much fun. Oh, wait till you guys see me talk about Tom King's Wonder Woman run. Ooh. But
I don't
anyway,
even know. I mean, I understand you're gonna drag it, but that's still torture. Like,
no,
that's
because you know why it
self-torture.
is, Britt? Because I get the feeling that some people have forgotten the early bullshit, like the punching moms, eating rats, Trinity being a complete and total B word. So I like to remind people occasionally of the crimes against Wonder Woman that this man has committed.
You're right, but
I'll take the bullet for people. It'll be my cross to bear. I'll take. That's how much I love you, people. And by the way, Britt, they voted for it. I brought it up as an option, and everyone in my chat was like, "Do it." So blame them, not me.
so they wanted you to be tortured. Okay.
Yeah. Blame them. It's not me. Why would I want to do that? But I have to do it because my audience demands it. Thus is the life of a YouTuber. But anyway, it's like. It's the thing is like DC keeps having too many. The minute I heard Williamson say, "Oh, I'm a child of the '90s," and I go, "Oh, like I get it that's when you came into comics," and you can. But here's the thing: you can tell he and Scott Snyder are like that because in the '90s, Britt, it was all gimmick marketing. Like you had, the lenticular covers. This one has a trading card. Oh, this one has blood pack. This one has this one has a limited edition character you're gonna want to buy to finance your college. And if you notice, they're doing the exact same thing. They even have the blind bag gimmick nowadays. And by the way, the blind bag. That's why DCKO sold as well as it did.
Yeah. And Batman, I did not know, had 78 variant covers.
Yeah.
That is very much overkill.
Well, if it's a relaunch, let me put it this way. If it's a relaunch, I'm kind of okay with that. If it's like the number one issue, because it's a very special, like significant thing. But yeah, 75 is a bit much.
Yeah, that's overkill. 10 max, but 70 plus? No.
Like, there's one completionist that's going to get every single cover.
No,
that's way too much money. But you would have to buy 75 of for the same comic.
Who is actually going to do that?
Yeah, and Dave says if you're over 30, remember to regularly examine yourself for signs of Lois in bathrooms or showers.
Wow.
It's like we should do as a parody for the channel a video that's like me with like a lab coat, and I go and I'm doing like one of those erectile dysfunction commercials, but it's like Lois Lane, and it's like if you notice your comic sales decline due to exposure to Lois Lane, call Barry and have him flashpoint it.
Wow, Jared.
I may do that. That would actually be really funny. But Robert's going to kill me one day, but whatever. All right. But I love that if you're over 30. That's the comment of the week right there. Thanks to Rebirth, Steve Trevor has become just as bad as Lois. Oh, Randy, it wasn't just Rebirth. Don't put all the blame on Rebirth. Although Rucka deserves a significant portion of the blame. Blame Tom King. Let's not leave him out of this because he deserves as much of the blame as Rucka, if not maybe more. But anyway, so Britt, tell us about the similarities and differences of these two couples.
Okay, so obviously, you have they are powerful, very public, and similar power sets, similar costumes, except one is a little exaggerated than the other. As I said, you have the exaggerated, plunge, the purse peak, the thong and everything. You have the exaggerated cape. What's weird about the cape is like, why is it sticking up like that? That is so like off shoulder. But there's no wind. It's just up on the shoulders like that. It's so very stiff.
Because it looks cool. That's why. That's what you have to understand about like the extreme era of Image. A lot of it doesn't have to make sense. It just has to look cool. Oh, Dave says you prescribe it like a giant blue pill. He opens it and Super Wonder comics are inside. Yes, that's the way. And then I turn it and say, "Thank you, Super Wonder Zempic."
Wow.
Yes, I created a drug name. Anyway, but yeah, it's and by the way, Britt. So you know what's funny, Britt? I want to say this. With your reaction to the costumes of like Glory, let's say, that's exactly the way it would look if the live action Wonder Woman had the bikini costume.
Oh, that's why we said no.
Yeah,
She can
exactly.
have-
So it's like all the Wonder Woman fans that complain about how women are objectified in comics and stuff. I'm like, you don't think that's what it would look like?
Yeah, she can have the shorts, like if they're actually like biker shorts or something, you know, but to have an actual bathing suit on is a no. Definitely not. Um, we can move away from the battle skirt. You know, that's because that has really gave some fans who don't understand Diana to think that she is just a warrior.
Yeah,
So,
I think that what you could probably do, yeah, go with like these shorts or like shorter shorts, kind of like Golden Age Wonder Woman. But in terms of like this, I still say keep this as armor.
right, that, yeah. Basically, the Tomorrowverse design.
Yes, exactly. That is if that was the one, if they use that for inspiration, I would have no problems. Now, talk about the differences between these two.
So, of course, Clark and Diana back and forth, you know, they very much held in constraint with editorial while Supreme and Glory are free. You know, as I said, whether they are together or not, it really doesn't matter. You don't have fans going back and forth. They're just enjoying the story, enjoying the comics. Um, one thing is that is the biggest difference is with the Supreme verse, they do have a Lois, which is funny because her name is Diana. She is a reporter, I believe, and everything like that. But again, you still have these Silver Age depictions of the relationships. You know, you do have I think she does know his secret identity, which his name is Ethan, and he is a mild mannered artist instead of a reporter. But again, it's not a commitment to the relationship. It's just whatever story they want to tell. They'll tell it with um, whether they want to bring in Glory and Lady Supreme or their daughter, or have him with the more traditional, in a sense, setting of, you know, really ripping off Superman. It, you know, as I said, it really depends on what story they wanted to tell.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, with the parenthood, again, Clark and Diana, honestly, with their whole story, it just feels better for them to be in Elseworlds because you can have some freedom. Now, does DC allow the freedom that we would want? No. You know, you still have some um, constraints there, but at the same time, it still feels a little bit more like you can tell the story in full. With Supreme, you just don't have to worry about anything.
Yeah, exactly. So then we get to how the on again, off again dynamic helps shape storytelling.
So, of course, it builds tension. We saw in, I would specify with Post Crisis, you know, we had that soap opera drama of Clark going to therapy. Diana, we really see her emotional. And even though I don't like it, um, loathed, hated, whatever, wanted to burn. Wonder Woman 170, we see how Diana has matured. She, even though she was written to coddle Lois because Lois is the one that had the jealousy streak and she had to be reassured, that Clark didn't have lingering feelings and that even though Steele's grandmother, like Diana, was closer to her and thought that she was with Clark, it was still that Clark chose Lois over Diana, whatever. But the fact that that was a constant thing in post crisis of trying to fight against what was presumed to be a natural thing of everyone knowing that Clark and Diana, or assuming Clark and Diana were together. You also have the JSA JLA crossover with Stargirl and Power Girl.
Mm-hmm.
They asked Diana what did she think of Superman or would they be together, and she totally sidetracks and she's like, I am the ambassador of peace, I have responsibilities. And it's kind of like they didn't ask you that, they just asked you, did you have feelings, or did you think that a relationship with Superman or would work or whatever.
Well, not only that, remember the other one by Meltzer, when Liberty Bell asked Diana, hey, what about Clark? She doesn't say, oh, I only see him as a friend or anything like that. All she says is he's unavailable.
He's available.
Ah.
So basically saying that if he was available, she definitely would give him a chance. You also have McDuffie, where in an alternate universe they are married. And before he passed, it was said that he was going to have main prime Superman and Wonder Woman address that to, have that moment again that, in a sense, simply put, is a right person, wrong time type of situation with them. Mm-hmm. And that honestly is very tragic, but bittersweet, beautifully bittersweet, because you want to root for that one day they will end up together, and that you do have that opportunity, but it's a slow burn, or it's a, having them as best friends, and then they have that underlying tension that continues on. That is, long form storytelling. And there's the difference between that relationship and how they want to safe zone Clois. They have want to pretend that the relationship is just this happy go lucky without conflict. And that's just not how storytelling works. You have to have conflict somewhere.
Yeah. Well, and remember, as our good friend Peter J. Tomasi has said, no drama, no conflict, no story.
So it's kind of like pot me kettle, because
he created no conflict. Isn't that funny?
Right. So, the double standards and contradictions just to not make Clark and Diana's relationship work, it was really unnecessary.
Well, remember, Tomasi's whole damn run was unnecessary.
Right. And then again, with if DC were to explore Clark and Diana having a child, even if it is like Hunter, was definitely a missed opportunity, because you could have had another storyline of, especially when they had these Supermen separated, and it was Diana still going through her mourning stage of losing New 52 Clark. If you were to see Hunter, and it's like, again, that bittersweet of should have, could have, would have type thing, and had their possible son, and giving her closure in that sense. That could have been a story told, instead of having it where he was just created or edited to be a prop up for the status quo.
Although I will say, though, Britt, the best line in that entire book is when Steve asks, "So who's your father?" And then Hunter just says, "Not you."
Yeah, that was
I
funny.
love that. I'm sorry. That will always be the best part of that entire book.
I mean, it would have been funnier if I still don't, believe what Hitch said about it not ever being Clark's kid.
Well, yeah, because if you look at the art at the end, when like they're saying goodbye to their kids, Clark's arm looks like it's around Diana. I'll get the trick.
No, it is around her.
Legacy. Yeah, legacy. All right, so let me see this. Let me. His arm is around her freaking shoulders.
Tells you.
Wow.
So how can you have that ending where it's like, oh, will we meet again? And it's like, okay, so you want to go through the whole thing of the assault and suicide again? Like, nothing changes. So yeah, the ending does not make sense at all.
Interesting, then. And Cameron says, I mean, who would want Steve Trevor as a father? Lizzie Marston Prince, my good friend, Lizzie Marston Prince. So
It's so
the
funny that
demon
her
child.
name, it's so funny that her name, even Lizzie, like you created this random grandmother that no one has ever known or cares for to name her Lizzie.
That Diana never knew about, even though she was in love with Steve. You would thought he would have mentioned her once.
No, that's the thing about, again, Diana and Steve's relationship is very surface level.
Yeah,
You know,
that's why they keep breaking them up. And I guarantee you, I'm going to make a prediction. Even if they bring Steve back before King leaves the book, they'll be broken up.
I mean, I really don't see the point of having Diana with Steve. And honestly, just like the Super Twins, Lizzie as a demon infant, you can just have her disappear.
Oh yeah, trust me. It's like there's any number of ways you could get rid of her. A friend of mine said that like the point in favor of them keeping her is the fact that they referenced her in her, at least her creation in history, but we could just make it where either it didn't work or that was just grief. So there's any number of ways you can get rid of her.
I mean,
Mhm.
in a sense, history was made months ago. So, of course, they didn't have time to, excuse me, edit, anything. But honestly, history, it doesn't even matter.
Well, it's just meant to establish a starting point for creators and where creators want to go with that. That's fine. So if you and I come on there and DC allows us to retcon her out, that'd be hilarious. It's like, and Diana makes a daughter. Literally, the next run out of here. Oh, Diana does not have a daughter anymore. Oh, by the way, Emperor Luffy says there's a lot of ways you could get rid of Lizzie, but I personally prefer the flamethrower.
Exactly.
Or the flamethrower, or like I prefer time travel, or there are many different ways. Case in point. Or
hereby complete the mission of the Amazons by ridding this world of you forever.
Yeah.
I love Dave. Steve gets the hydraulic press. Lois gets flung into space. Chucky Baby goes to the dumpster on prom night. By the way, again, I love how Britt, independent of you, my audience has started calling her a Chucky Baby. So I'll be like discussing like Wonder Woman stuff with a guest, and all of a sudden, the chat will call it like Chucky Baby, and someone will ask, "What's Chucky Baby?" And I'll go, "It's a long story." Blame Nicola Scott for that really cringe cover.
Well, I mean, well, I'm sorry, but Nicole's got her facial expressions and the way she draws
Jay Leno
chins,
chin. Jay Leno chin.
Jay Leno and Natalie Nunn. So,
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, so let's talk about the takeaways. It's like, look, when you look at like Superman and Wonder Woman, the one time they put them together in continuity, it was one of the top selling books at DC. When you put the supposed true power couple of Lois and Superman together, it flops. I'm like, I'm not a businessman, but I'm pretty sure that's the audience telling you something.
exactly. A debut of over 100K versus 30K.
Yeah, that's quite a difference, Britt. Like, oh my
Quite
God.
the difference. And it really just doesn't make sense.
And here's the important part, though. While it debuted, they could always say, well, how did it go with the subsequent issues? Yes, there were some issues that kind of dropped, but it was very healthy. It never like when you look at like the Lois book, it started at 30 and then
Exactly. And again, you are listening to Twitter or whatever else, and they don't support the books. They just want the status quo or the character, that they prefer, but they're not looking at it as in a business aspect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's a lot. Current Superman is not doing well. It barely made the top 30. Yeah, we all know how well or not so well the current Wonder Woman run is. Oh, you know what, Britt? We forgot to do a slide for the sales. You know what? I'll pull it up when we complete the PowerPoint because we have to laugh anyway. But it's like, here's the thing. Again, the best way to describe this, because I think this statement by Dan DiDio summarizes this well. It applies to the entire New 52, but it applies to this. It's taking risks and like doing stuff that you don't necessarily know if it's going to do well. Look at what happens. Like Wonder Woman from Hell, the Absolute Universe is the perfect example of this as well. When you take risks, when you challenge the status quo, look at what happens. You could have gold on your hands because they didn't expect SuperWonder to do as well as it did.
They didn't. They really thought that it would just be like this. Well, I think it was pretty much Jeff Johns that thought it was going to be this temporary, was a gimmick or this very, controversial plot line, especially to, sell the New 52. But when you actually see how at the time it was the fastest selling digital comic, the fastest selling comic to go to second print, and also with it garnishing so much support, then you have a spinoff, and the spinoff does just as well with over 100K. And it continues on. Yeah, it fluctuates. That's with every book, but it still was at that time, especially because in the third year of New 52 and where you're trying to gain, fans back from pre 52 sales and everything. So it was very much a gold ticket for them. It was just the fact that DC ended up fumbling it though.
As DC normally does. By the way, Luffy says, when was the last time Lois did anything relevant? She got powers.
And even that isn't relevant though.
Even that is like stupid. But it's like Dave says, where are the odds Absolute Superman and Wonder Woman eventually get together? Good question. I would say put a pin in that because we need to see, because it's up to like Aaron and Kelly what they want to do.
I would honestly be honest and say 0%.
All right. Britt's her usual pessimist.
It's not that. It's just the fact that, regardless of anything, I think that DC doesn't want to really go that far again
Hmm.
because of the expectations and just how that relationship overshadows, in a good way though, a lot of the traditional aspects of what they want to push. And once you have Super Wonder again, it's like, again, there's that, expectation. And also it's something that will spark, a lot of conversation, but also how cowardly, DC caves to fans um throwing tantrums.
Yeah, and Barry Lord said they're not putting absolute Wonder Woman with Batman. No way Kelly would allow that. Anyway, so Britt, tell us about the history of Supreme.
So we can speed past this
Hmm.
a lot. So he is a ripoff of Superman.
Oh yeah.
He debuted in Supreme #1 in 1992. The original function was a powerful Superman analog. The flight and vulnerability, heavily powered up, exaggerated,
Hmm.
very exaggerated muscles. Um,
Here's the thing, though. Have you seen Henry Cavill? That may not be exaggerated.
um, but you see, the cape it
Hmm.
very much looks like it was heavily starched.
Again, it looks cool, so it's like with Image, the rule of cool rules, if you will.
Starched cape. Okay, so
I
the
love how Britt's like not impressed.
so it was a lot of battling going on. It really didn't have that homely feel at first. It was just action, and punching and looking, well, as Jared said, looking cool with a starched cape. Then you have Alan Moore. This was in Supreme issue 41 in 1996,
And the
where
hero's
he
born.
oh, where he basically just gives him the Superman treatment, a little bit more of giving him supporting cast. And again, like I said, he does have a Lois Lane, but her name is Diana, which is hilarious to me.
Mm.
And he does have a secret identity, and it's just still something to not take too seriously.
Hmm.
So with his background and everything, again, very powerful. He does have immortality. He battles through the decades, and as I said earlier, if you have watched Dragon Ball Z, just think of Goku. His history was retconned into one version. He volunteered for a U.S. government experiment in the 40s to become superhuman,
Hmm.
which is very interesting. So you basically mix in a little bit of Captain America too.
Hmm.
Um, and then again, you're just playing back and forth with a very jumbled continuity. But again, you're not taking it serious. You're just enjoying the story. Um, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, but by the way, Dave brings up a good point. Dave the Impaler says Supreme was a simple ripoff like everything else Rob Liefeld created, but he had the good sense to hire Alan Moore. That was the difference between Rob Liefeld and the other Image Comics guys, because there's a reason why the early Image books are very like superficial in terms of the writing. It's because you have the comic book artists doing the writing, because they were like, well, we could do it ourselves. But it's like that's why a lot of the stories are like very superficial. Where with Liefeld, he actually hired writers as well.
True, very smart creative choice.
Exactly. So then you get to status and legacy.
Okay, so with here, it's very much a cult favorite. It's very in a niche, not so much as quote unquote mainstream as, like the big two, or um they it's been a long time since they had like a reboot or a story, I see.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's very low radar. Um and there's also, I guess, it's something, um a little rights battle going on.
Okay, I see. That's why there hasn't been a Supreme comic in a while, because you would think they would bring this back.
I mean, at the height of Omni-Man, um, Homelander, and with the Superman movie and everything, yeah, definitely would have seen, Supreme. With Marvel even having Century, yeah,
Yeah, exactly. But you know what's kind of interesting? Kind of interesting how the Superman in the Super Wonder analogy wears the bracelets.
that is a nice touch.
I'm like, oh, okay, I like that. So now about Glory.
Okay, so obviously Glory is Wonder Woman.
Hmm.
She debuted in Youngblood #1, Strike File #1 in April of 1993.
Hmm.
Um, she Her name was Gloriana, I guess. Glory, yeah, I guess it's how Demeter.
Damn it.
So
Yeah, the goddess of the hearth, I think.
yeah, so she's half Amazon, half demon, which is interesting.
So she's very
Uh,
absolute, I see.
yeah, I was definitely thinking that very much absolute version. Um, so she lived in the Isle of Paradise.
Yeah.
And pretty much grew up exactly the way Diana did. Um, her early appearance, she is from wartime, which
Mm,
I'm very tired of, you know, having the whether it is Diana or Wonder Woman variants being old hags like that. Just because she's immortal doesn't mean she has to be old as dirt, you know.
hmm. Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
so that is the only one plus I am giving Mark Wade, that he has established Hippolyta as the JSA Wonder Woman.
Yeah, exactly. So like, and there are still some people that are pissed off about that because when I did my hot takes about Diana not dating the Amazons, I don't like that. I think that Diana should be the same age as all the other Amazons so she can date them. That's what these people said to me. Or it's like the
Absolutely not.
people were so superficial that they're like, okay, but then it's like, I agree she shouldn't date the Amazons. I just want her to date a woman. And I go, thank you for not caring about like the overall character. That's all, but whatever. But anyway, so then we get to the publication history and revisions. And is that Glory?
I'm getting to it.
Oh boy.
So again, the whole wartime thing, having her immortal, but she is still with Century, not Century, Supreme.
Hmm.
Um, and in March of 1999, Moore attempted to relaunch her in Awesome Comics, Absolute Comics. Wow. Um, and but that imprint collapsed, so it was a failed imprint. She did have a significant reboot in 2012, and the artist drew her as um, muscular, very tall, and albino. They wanted to represent the Amazons a little bit more, or of and the have her with the more demon look,
Hmm.
extraterrestrial type. Um, and she's scarred. And honestly, this makes it very now we see where the idea of having Diana scarred and everything. I think because some of these fans think that Diana is an Image comic character. Like
Hmm.
she is the variant of 2012's Glory.
I see. That makes sense. Wow.
Yeah. So then so the relaunch was collected in 2014 and it hasn't been anything after that.
Hmm. Yeah, imagine that. But anyway, so then we have the character background and themes.
So again, she's half Amazon, half demon, albino. Well, the 2012 version is albino, muscular, and scarred, or she's um, paper thin with no ribs. Um, and she was raised on the Isle of Paradise. And she came from um, wartime fighting Nazis as usual, as they the thing is, honestly, I think that this is very much overplayed because you have Captain America, you have the
Yeah.
JSA, but not just because they were kind of created around the 30s and the 40s, it doesn't mean the character in modern day has to be within that time. You
Yeah,
can have
exactly.
yeah, you can have Elseworld stories, but main continuity, just no, is very much overplayed. And then the 2012 relaunch, it pretty much goes within her identity, her heritage, and being in war.
Yeah. Yeah, I got it. It's like, but it's like like again, this gets back to a Britt and mine's main issue with the way a lot of DC creators handle Wonder Woman is that none of them get the balance that I always preach, the balance that you need for Wonder Woman, because it's like, no, guys, she's a warrior, that is true, that's part of her identity, but she's also a peaceful like individual.
Right. They don't know. I think that they see Diana as like this one dimensional. They go too extreme, both ways. If you go for the doe-eyed, happy-go-lucky, type that Rucka sort of introduced in year one, she comes off very ditzy and airheaded.
Yeah,
Then
exactly.
when you go to the other extreme, you either get Injustice, you get the warrior woman from that's a little cold-hearted, still at Rucka, but also
Or
she's out
Taylor.
of, or Taylor, she's out of touch, very stiff like King has her, things like that. So yeah, you have to have that balance. Even New 52 Wonder Woman, I would say she had a little bit more balance to her.
Oh yeah, 100%. And like obviously Perez was the epitome of balance.
Exactly.
So status and legacy of our Lady Glory.
So as I said earlier, she is a lesser known character within the under Supreme, because she was um, basically a supporting character for him. But she pretty much is praised, as we know she is, by the fans. And but the thing is, her, like Diana, suffers from reboots, relaunches, failed reboots of basically trying to give the characters uh, better solos.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like this shouldn't be that hard for these, but again, it's like too many of these creatives just go warrior woman, and they write it like that. Of like, okay, some of those characters you can do that with, like Red Sonja is pretty much warrior woman, despite that horrible movie. But it's like this doesn't work. Well, let me be clear. Forcing like you can put some more nuance into these characters, like Diana.
Right, but again, laziness wins.
That would require a lot of these writers to actually know what they're doing with this character, and we all know DC doesn't. Anyway, let's talk about the relationship and their interaction.
So again, Supreme and Glory, they have a shared continuity in the Extreme verse. They have the first somewhat crossover or so was Supreme Glory Days. Well, that is when it really showed them as a explicit or exclusive pair in 1994, and then it pretty much reinforces the Superman and Wonder Woman dynamic, the back and forth, will they, won't they, and I think Eric Luke's run, it was definitely after this. So I would say that this kind of maybe this influenced his run, maybe.
I would say so.
But you do have that power couple thing going on, and they still are. I would say that overall, the verse still feels underdeveloped, though. Maybe because I haven't read it yet in depth, but it still feels like, again, with being an analog, and it does have its own uniqueness in a sense, like, but it still needs a little bit more to truly be unique.
Yeah, exactly. It's like there's more to do, but there is definitely potential. So let's talk about why should we care about these characters, Britt?
So again, because you want this specific storyline, of you basically want Superman and Wonder Woman without the, creative leash. You want these storylines to be able to be explored at its full potential and be able to, do certain things and take these risks without feeling like you're going to get in trouble for it. And that was the one thing that even Snyder said with Absolute, is that it gave them a little bit more room, and it to come away from the conservativeness of the main line. However,
it's funny because you were then conservative with the main line. That's the funny part.
Yeah, Snyder is going a little bit safe as far as relationship goes, because he is going with, Batcat, and the villains might be Bruce's, childhood best friends, but they still end up becoming the villains that they were in mainline. Bruce, he is supposed to be the underdog. He's supposed to be, you know, basically broke. But yet, when you read Absolute Batman, the many gadgets and the many, like, the big giant Batmobile and everything that he has going on, he has way more advanced, whatever, than mainline Batman. So you would think that, wow, does Absolute Batman have money? So it's kind of like Snyder is falling into the mainline default with his own story at in certain points. I would say the only thing that he's doing something unique with is putting the horror content in there a little bit more, with his Joker design. I mean, I would say that his Joker design is so much worse than watching Big G.
Oh yeah, 100%. 100%. Well, remember his Joker design so far hasn't kissed a decapitated head.
I mean, with him describing what Joker is and the fact that his face is like full of teeth, like he's basically, Pennywise or something, then, you know, we might see that.
Yeah, honestly, you're probably not wrong. I'll give you that. You're probably not wrong. But yeah, so it's like you want these two so we can at least live vicariously through these characters, like Clovis fans. Oh no, I'm sounding like a Clovis fan. But so as you guys know all the time, our talented writer Britt has created a crossover story. But before we do that, I want to take this opportunity for a little self promo. So I am going to play the trailer for Athena, the goddess of thunder, right about now. So let's do this. And you get to hear a very familiar voice in the trailer.
My home has been invaded, my people slaughtered, and I could not do anything to stop it. Not again. I will not lose another home, another family. I am Princess Lyra of the planet Centragon, Athena, the goddess of thunder, and this is my story.
Man, that trailer just keeps getting better and better and better.
Yes, it is.
All right, NJ, I'll see you around. But yeah, so let's do this. So, Eternal Hearts, a Trial of Worth.
Okay, so obviously the theme of these two relationships is going the will they, won't they, back and forth. Clark, this Clark here is post-crisis, obviously, and it takes influence from Perez and Wonder Woman 141. Also when he had to go to therapy, and things like that. So it's basically about, these two men facing that they have taken for granted these two powerful women, in their life that has been their support and obviously love them. So why can't they give them that love back in a way that they know that they're worth it? And what was also good about Perez was that he had Clark very, the way he wrote Clark, he was very sad, and he kept that feeling of, as I said earlier, very protective of Diana. And he, when she needed advice, when Hippolyta was coming to Man's World and having the interview, and also the basically overview of Wonder Woman's life, and that interview with Cat Grant, he basically said that no man is worthy of her, and he put himself in that category as well. But we all know that he is worthy of her. He just has to work for it. And Supreme, he has to basically just stop, putting, of course, be the hero that the world needs him to be, but at the same time, he has to at least be apologetic towards Glory. There was a page from Glory's first solo where Supreme comes in and he says, "Hi, honey," or something, and he, like I said, he acts like being away for so long is nothing. And she got emotional and she basically punched him out the apartment building.
Oh,
And but afterwards he says something like he's not going going anywhere anytime soon or something like that. But it was just that moment that I was like, oh wow, yeah, this is definitely giving, a familiar feel of post-crisis Clark and Diana. Especially that back and forth of denying feelings as well. So with the overview of here, you have that trial and being tested of, are these men worthy, and can they finally realize, what they are missing, and how time, it's not exactly on their side, but they can work within it. And again, it's also that running theme of right person, wrong time.
Okay.
And of course, we have Aphrodite and Eros, basically um, setting up the trial that
Okay.
Superman and Supreme will go through.
Okay. Okay. And prologue.
So here, so of course we have to make it where somehow these universes merge. So we
Mhm.
always have like um
A portal opens.
yeah, a portal open. You always have to have that. Um and while Superman is hovering over Metropolis, he's just kind of in deep thought of what he should do about his feelings with Diana. He's just very much in a very clouded headspace and can't think beyond Diana. And Supreme is the same way. He knows he has messed up, especially because he got knocked out by Glory, earlier because of his, just thinking that she would welcome him with open arms. Um, so then you have Clark again realizing that Diana is his best friend. He loved her and he still does. That those feelings can't be repressed any longer. And Supreme, he knows that um, Glory is her own person, and she is someone that he does have to have like the utmost respect for. She has been by his side for decades. So it's like you have to respect her feelings and actually understand her perspective of things as a not only as a hero, but someone who he claims to love.
Yeah, exactly. So, chapter one. I figured this would be a good visualization for the portal opens.
Right. So the portal opens and um Diana and Glory feels it first. Diana is on Themyscira. She's basically having her own reflection. I say the um the visual of Perez issue when she prays, she wakes up and she prays naked, trying to understand her feelings and how confused she is and also a little bit hurt. And then you have Glory where she's pretty much just angry. And but they feel that disturbance, you know, um within the reality rip, and they meet. At first I wanted them to probably have this certain battle, but then with just that was very cliche.
Yeah,
So
because there's
I
always a battle when two superheroes meet.
Yeah, so here, especially because this is going for a more emotional type storytelling, it's really just them seeing each other as a reflection. And it's kind of like, oh, like, who are you? Of course, they will question that, but then it's kind of like they have that same feeling of knowing that, okay, this is something um meant to be, to meet. And of course, Diana actually has the lasso and she pretty much asks Glory, in order for us to trust, here you go, you know.
Yeah, exactly. So then, chapter 2, Challenge of the Gods.
So Eros, he is a mixture for me of New 52 and the pre-crisis version.
Oh, you
The
mean the
one that's
baby and with the bow and arrow?
no, the
Oh
one
yeah, it was
there's
the dude with the two guns that shot Clark.
yeah. I would say that he is a little bit more friendlier than the
Hmm.
pre-crisis one because the pre-crisis one was actually in love with Diana
Yeah.
and he was being very petty.
Hmm.
So pretty much a mixture of that. But you also have Aphrodite, and they basically say, love is divine and it has to be tested.
And you just gave
It's
me an idea.
of course I did. And just being of well, thinking you're mentally or physically strong, that's not enough. You have to have that emotional strength as well. And Eros, he basically throws um Clark and Ethan, I'll say his um identity
Hmm.
name. He basically says, you are going to go through this trial. and and especially with Clark, and he's like, if you want to make sure that you are worthy of my cousin, then this is what you're going to go through, and it is going to be a roller coaster of emotions, and you're going to have these realistic visions and stuff like that, but let's see how strong you are on every level.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So then we get to chapter 3, the Trial of the Heart.
So this is where they actually see and have flashback of these moments. Clark, he has moments where in battle, how Diana has comforted him through seeing so many lives lost, or like the Supergirl issue where he blast all the doomsday replicas, and he's like, I can't. It basically scares him to use that much power of heat vision, or Wonder Woman 175, that moment right there. And he realized that he's never emotionally opened up to someone like that before, to really be able to cry and, be held that way. Instead, all the time he has to hold in his feelings and be strong for the superhero community. And also, again, don't like King, but the most, the better moment of Heroes in Crisis was that silent moment where Diana puts her hand on Clark's shoulder, knowing that he was nervous.
So what
Um,
you're telling me is that that was a tiny diamond on a pile of stool.
I wouldn't call it a diamond. It's very much a fake jewelry. It's very cheap,
Okay,
but
how about a Walgreens diamond?
I mean, it's gonna turn green. So
I can't make any analogies with hers.
let me see. It's kind of like, hmm, it's kind of like though. It's maybe it's a McDonald's toy or something.
Yeah, made out of stool. But anyway, continue.
Yeah. And then Supreme, he basically sees the same thing of Glory being right by his side through all of the battles and the victories and stuff, and how she makes him feel better about everything that he's trying to strive for, and he hears her laugh, and things like that. Those small moments that truly show why these women care and why they care for these women.
Exactly. So then chapter 4, Voices of Wonder.
So again, they begin to hear, some of the things that they've said to each other, whether it is them having a conflict, having a laugh, having an emotional moment, just going through their lives together ever since they first met. And this pretty much goes back to, I would say, maybe the Superman and Wonder Woman unpublished issues, where we see Diana, reflect on when she first met Clark, and she said that, the moment she met him, she knew he would be the man she gave her heart to.
Mm-hmm.
And also the image of, from Superman and Wonder Woman 25, when Eros takes Clark to the Garden of Love and he sees all the statues of him and Diana together, and it, you know, really gives him that full vision of every moment that, you know, really mattered and has had an impact on him, that he knew, but to actually have that visual is a strong realization. And also for Glory and Wonder Woman, they also have this reflection of why they fell in love with these men, as frustrating as it is, and the fact that they are Amazons that falling in love, it's not something that is seen as weak, but it's just the fact of still, just putting your heart in that sort of way, and being so vulnerable with someone as an Amazon is very different. So they have to, basically struggle with that a little bit and overcome it as well.
Yeah, exactly. So then we get to chapter 5, the future revealed.
So Aphrodite, she basically shows the visions of their future, and it's like, basically, do you want this? You know, and if you do, this is what it will become. But it is a journey. Life is very hard. So, but you know, if you complete this trial, if you are honest, this is the life that you could live. And it basically shows their future children. Um, Obviously, showing, Kingdom Come 10 years later was very fitting for this section.
Yeah, exactly. So then we have epilogue, the return.
So here they obviously have gone through the trial, has, and in a sense, had that revelation and won their trials. Very emotional, but you have Clark and Ethan go to Diana and Glory and basically confess their love. Very open and honest, very emotional, and it's them having the realization that, yeah, it is going to be tough, and especially with who we are. And again, influenced by Superman and Wonder Woman 12, when Diana says, we're fighters, and being a fighter means it's going to be much harder for us, especially because of who we are. But, you know, we are ready for that journey,
Yeah.
and we can, make a relationship work. Honestly, this is how DC should have played it in the first place and be more mature, because even if
DC being mature,
right,
banish the thought from your mind.
right, very much a very tall leap. But yeah, if they were to have continued and had Perez write it again, if he wanted them to have their rendezvous, one night stand type thing, let them have it, and have, at least that would explain those very um, deep emotional moments that we had throughout post crisis. Because if you never actually had a, it was just an awkward first date and you decided to be friends or whatever, you wouldn't have those moments like that. You wouldn't be so um that emotionally invested in someone, because yes, you have that deep friendship feel, but the way that they are written throughout is very much even exes, they're basically written like exes.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Exactly. So, tell me, Britt. Dave, an unblemished kernel of corn picked from a nursing home bedpan. And DC is just as mature as a first grader. My God, guys. I love you guys. So, Britt, tell me. It's by the way, great story. I loved it. And of course, and it's like, again, I like where you didn't fall into the regular tropes of like, they met, they have to fight first before they team up.
No, again, we always go for the emotional, core of everything. Yeah, we have had those in our, in some of our crossovers, but not all the time does every story has to be the same.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, so let's do this. So tell me, Britt, what did you think of Green Lantern issue 3?
So, of course, the artwork continues to stand out. And then you have how he's basically back on Earth. And the most standout moment, of course, is when he pitches the baseball to the little guy named Stewie, and helping him. That was honestly so cute. And we definitely need more moments like that with with all the Justice Leaguers, but especially with Hal, because again, you only think of him as this womanizer, especially if you don't read, much of his stories and just go by animation or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have those moments of him really showing himself to be, yes, he does exemplify a little bit of loser behavior especially when it comes to Carol, because he is so in love with her, but at the same time, he has you know, he is heroic and he does have the will. The thing is, I would say that it's not something that has to be explicitly, defined with words. It's just really with Hal's actions.
I would say so. And it's like, yeah, I like seeing how, because it's like the more I read this run, and it gets into this later. It's like the interesting thing about this run that you may have noticed is that he can't leave Earth, and that's because Earth has been quarantined by the Federation that's currently in control of the Green Lantern. So he's stuck there. But it's like all part of like some plot that will be revealed later. But it's like the great thing about this, I also love how it basically slowly sets up Sinestro as a threat, and they really go above. Jeremy Adams goes above and beyond to really like slowly build the anticipation for these two characters to eventually duke it out. And I love the Hal and Carol moments, like especially when it's like they're talking about Sinestro and then they just sit there, there's awkward silence, and then Hal just says, "I'm sorry." And she says, "Me too."
Yeah, those moments really, um, they're really cute, you know. And you don't have mature relationships like this, to really have you root for the pairing. And also, yeah, Sinestro walking in with a hoodie and just still being evil is very funny to me.
Yeah, exactly. I love it. How would you rate this issue, Britt, out of 10?
Honestly, I would give it a 9.
That's good. I'm so I'm kind of jarred because I'm not used to you rating DC books so high.
If you give me cute, genuine moments, then I would give it a pass.
Yeah, okay, I'll give you that. So, Absolute Superman number 13. Now, let me tell you this. The art and the use of red and stuff in this issue is utterly spec-frickin-tacular. And the idea of using Soul to create literally a cape wall around Smallville to protect it from Lazarus, I'm like, you just took the dust cape thing and made it so much cooler as well. Like, I didn't know it could do that. Well, and again, so you could say, Britt, Smallville has become his fortress of solitude.
Yeah, you can say that. I would say that for this issue, it does make it seem, as I said earlier with Snyder, they are going safe with the same kind of settings and dynamics and stuff. But at least we see Smallville as like this, it's not just this dumb town. You know, it's starting to have like its own emotional pool that is missing within the main verse.
Yeah, exactly. I also I love the scene where Clark meets the guy that like turned him into Lazarus, and he goes, "Look, it's just because I believed what Lazarus was saying." And then Clark is like just being like, "Okay." It's like, "Hey, you have a good eye. We could use you on guard duty." So in other words, Clark is not like being a dick or I call him Clark, but it's like obviously he's Cal in the storyline. But it's like the other thing that I really like. And this reminded me a lot of Batman versus Superman, where he's talking about, I'm protecting a world that will never accept me. I'm like it's like I'm trying to find the actual line here because there was a fantastic like dialogue here. Plus, you know me, I love seeing peacemakers get the crap beaten out of them. Oh, there you go. The world will never trust me. I'll always be an other to these people. It doesn't matter what I tell them. I've told them too much. Should never have mentioned Krypton. Should have stayed hidden. Smallville is suffering because I was careless. Because I showed the world something I cared about. Never do that again. This world needs a Superman more than anything. So it's like it's building up. Of course, at first he says that's not me, but it's like he's building up his confidence on being the protector of the world. And that just reminds me of Batman versus Superman with when he is like saving people as they're talking about like if he could be a threat or anything like that. And that firmly like tells me that like Aaron understands Superman as a character because he's doing the whole Superman will protect people no matter what. It doesn't matter what you do to him. He's still going to protect you.
Right, and that is nice, you know. We don't have too much of the emo version. Again, I just don't want it to go veering too much on mainline type default.
And I understand that. Now, it's like, look, in terms of like the Lois and Jimmy going back to their main roles, I mean, it's kind of like the way I kind of took that. It's when I read the issue. It's not. I don't think that because here's the thing: this world is like the way I kind of take it is that this world will always trend toward like the dark side or like the absolute like idea. That's kind of the point of the absolute universe. So it's like they're not going to go back to I mean, I don't think. Now I could be wrong. But I don't think we're gonna be in a situation where like all of a sudden this looks exactly like the main line. Now, will there be similar like ideas? Sure, of course. Will Superman inevitably become like a less dark and less emo character, but still like have that respect for Krypton? Because that's where this stands apart from the main verse Superman. This one has a tremendous amount of respect and reverence for Krypton. And that right there, Britt, from what everything that you and I have said on the show over 118 episodes, now 118, it's like that is the one thing, well, one of the things that has been like missing from Superman as like we have read from like our experience, but particularly in the modern day.
Right, but honestly, that shouldn't be a dark side thing. I mean,
Well,
to say that he's more respectful and balanced with Krypton and, you know, embracing his now adoptive home, that should not be a dark side vision.
well, yeah, that is true, but it's like, but it's like, here's the thing. Even with a dark side vision, remember the point of the dark side of the absolute universe is to show that if you take away everything from these characters, they are still fundamentally good people, and they will be the ones that buck against the system. And think about it this way, Britt. Again, Superman has returned to being a champion of the oppressed for the first time in like forever.
Point one.
I try so hard. He doesn't have the trunks.
Another point one.
He's not with Lois.
Well, no, you don't know that yet. So that's
Currently, he's not with Lois.
mm,
I don't know about
not
you,
yet.
Britt, but I think respecting Krypton and like the soul stuff, that deserves like 5 points, I think.
It gets a 0.5.
I can never win with you. God damn it.
No, not yet.
You are so hard to please, lady.
Until I have basically concrete that it won't end up fumbled, I just won't give it too much yet.
All right. But let me put it this way. Here's why he gets an extra 5 points with me. Clark completely destroys Peacemakers. That's fine. I'll appreciate that. But yeah, how do you rate this issue out of 10? Because personally, I give it like I give it an 8 out of 10. How about you?
I'll be generous and give it a 7.
I mean, Britt, here's the thing: is like throughout the past couple of issues of us reading this book, you kept saying, "Hey, I want to see more of like the modern day and see Clark and stuff," and then it's like we have this issue.
It's like it needs a little bit more though. It's giving, but not giving enough.
Okay, I'll see you. I'll go with that. That's fine. I'll accept that. But yeah, so speaking of wacky ass stories, okay. So Bomb Queen 3. So let me start off by telling you this is my least favorite issue I've read so far. And there's a lot of things in this book that this is the first time I've had to very carefully curate which pictures I grab because her boob is out for most of this issue. Second off, there's a scene where you have 2 naked people watching the TV, and then one of them calls the other one dad. And I'm like, the hell is this? And it's basically Bomb Queen kind of goes too far, and it leads to like a kind of a revolution, at least a civil unrest, and then she SAs a politician to like get him on her side, or she crunches his nuts. At least I think that's the implication of what happens. But I'm like, at a certain point, the existential dread I had in my mind at reading this started to become too intense, and I go, what is Britt doing to me? That's what I kind of had to wonder, and I'm like, oh, thank God there's one more issue in this graphic novel. But for this, it's like, this is the first time I kind of felt like it went a little excessive.
Well, this is what you get for having me read the for April.
That's April Fool's. You can't get payback for April Fool's.
Oh, I can. Britt can.
No, you can't. That's not the rules. Because if so, I should get payback on Robert for making me read the first trade of Tom King's Wonder Woman.
I am the exception to the rule.
And who decided that?
Me, of course.
You know I run this channel, right?
Jared.
Cameron, you're not on my side, brother. You gave her PTSD. I feel like this is fair.
Thank you.
What about me? I got PTSD from reading this, as a matter of fact.
No, but that's a reaction from giving me PSD first. So.
Oh, trust me, you're gonna have PTSD after I make you read the Superman Wonder Woman book by Chris Claremont, whom Gods Destroy, that you then have to positively review.
And that is why you're reading the other volumes of Bomb Queen.
Yeah. So before we wrap up, I think I have a fun thing that we can do. Let's look at the sales, shall we? Because we meant to have a slide for this, but we didn't. It's all good. But yeah, so let's do this. We all got PTSD because of Rebirth. Yeah. By the way, the top 100 sales for October for graphic novels, you know who was on that list? Absolute Wonder Woman Volume 1. Again? Third month in a row.
Yeah.
So let's do this. So here are the sales, and we're gonna play a little game. So Britt, you tell me what book to look up first.
Let's see. Where actually I didn't see where World's Finest was.
Hang on. World's Finest is 56.
That's not bad.
For a book that starts with Batman, but then again, it's like it was never really that high of a seller, so I'm like, okay.
Let's see. Well, you said that Johnson's book did not chart at all.
Yeah, because I went adventures.
Did you say Book of L? Try that.
Yeah.
Wow.
And here's the thing, Britt. It was a number 1.
Oh, it came out in September, so that should have been actually issue 2 for October.
Well, still, it didn't chart.
Wow. Justice League Red.
3 of 6, 124.
Oh my god.
Let me make sure. Hang on. Let me make sure. Well, Justice League Red is made up of not really interesting characters, so it could be like that. Well, by not interesting characters, like characters that don't necessarily sell their own books, but if they're going after off of the Justice League name, like if we go to Justice League Unlimited, that one was like to 12. It's the DCKO thing, so it's 36. That's about right where I felt it would go.
I mean, it's a KO tie-in thing, so honestly, I don't really count those, because it is going to get the boost from the event.
Oh, look at poor Wonder Woman.
It went down 20 something, right?
Yeah, 20 something spaces. Oh, poor Wonder Woman. Poor Wonder Woman. And then let's see where Absolute Wonder Woman is. Just curious. Just curious. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Let's zoom in on this. Look at that. Now, Britt, what number is that?
6.
Suck it, Tom King. Your Wonder Woman book is flopping, sir. Flopping.
Yeah, that is kind of embarrassing that your main line is, even with introducing Trinity, no matter what, she still should have had this top selling book because King has so much clout too with DCU, but it just goes to show that, well, with all of his books.
Remember, Supergirl was in the dollar bin before it was announced the book. It was a big, because here's the thing. Because for the longest time, the fans were saying, where's the hardcover for Supergirl? It never got a hardcover.
Yeah, when doesn't get that, it really, yeah, it tells you that this book is not worth it.
Oh, and by the way, I know they tried to tell you that Wonder Woman 25 got a second printing. By the way, that one got a second printing. And the funny part is that you notice none of the other Wonder Woman issues got a second printing. Number one. Number two, whenever DC tells you that, you know what they actually do? They split their print in half and then just release that half so that they can say, "Oh, it's selling well. I'm just gonna let's go to a second print. We have a second printing." Not telling you
Especially
that it's just half the order.
because it's so weird to me that it's like the same exact cover. Like when you have a second print, I expect a alternate cover
Oh yeah,
for the
there
second
should
print.
be. That's Absolute Batman is still getting reprinted with different covers.
You're right. And also, with it's the introduction of matriarch. So you have collectors as well that are stuck on, just thinking that maybe she will, as a character, have some type of value.
Oh look, crypto is at 100.
Well, crypto is cute. And,
It,
it's
but it's
just a
like,
dog.
but it's like, here's the thing. It's like when you look at this, the main line. Remember where they made a big deal about the summer of Superman, Britt?
And most of the Superman books are in the toilet. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, let's look at Superman real quick. Superman 31 KO is 28. DC KO.
Exactly.
Action Comics 84. 84 for Action Comics.
I would say, yeah, that that tracks is pretty much stagnant, Action Comics. Superman, I told you, KO event is going to go up.
Superman, well, actually, Flash did not go up. It's at 80.
Oh wow, that was a tie-in. Well, that one had been flopping in the hundreds though.
Oh, okay. So I can kind of get off of that. Before you guys ask, the reason why Trinity is on this list because it didn't release. Remember where it was delayed 7 weeks. So I know if you guys are excited about it not appearing. Let's look at this. Here's another good book. You want to have a laugh? Cheetah's not again. Cheetah didn't chart.
Who cares about Cheetah?
Who cares exactly? I don't. But it's like, here's the thing about this freaking book. It's like, here's the problem with Cheetah. With that. Here's why it flopped. Because the premise is not interesting, and second off, the problem with what Rucka did with his career after he left DC is that he went to the more graphic novel long form format, which that's fine if that worked for him, but he didn't publish anything mainstream for like a while, and the fan base kind of forgot about him. So it's like, and it's like you start to realize a lot of the issues that he has. So it's like if you have a book with characters that either you didn't choose or like you chose them but you chose poorly, and it's like, no, come on, it's just, this is so stupid, and I guess people don't care about your drama BSing.
The thing is with Rucka is that, yeah, a lot of his graphic novels and some other things that he's written, very problematic. I'm seeing it all the time, more so on Twitter of how people are calling out Rucka for his very problematic writing, whether it is being tone deaf, politically or something racially, So yeah, it's just his, and then going back to even his Wonder Woman, first Wonder Woman run, and you see how just boring it is and how slow it is I think the reason why it's so praised is because, of course, Diana doesn't have many runs to that stand out.
And she's the focus of it. There are some fun stuff with it, and it does deal with like the gods a lot really well. So I'm not gonna overly dunk that one. The Rebirth one deserves to be dunked in the trash.
Yeah, but his Diana is still very she she doesn't seem too friendly. Like she gives that judgmental feel. She gives very snooty and the princess vibe she shouldn't have.
Yeah, that's true. And it's like when Rucka constantly talks about like, oh, it's like Cheetah's in love with Wonder Woman, the murderous cat lady. I go, bro, you're not helping. I know you're trying to get like points from like the overly socially justice oriented crowd, but that's not. So far, it hasn't worked, and you've done more damage to the character than you care to admit.
Yeah, but I mean, uh, with the whole cheetah thing, it really doesn't make sense to me. Like, you consciously changed so much of, post crisis to say that you are returning a post crisis, just to have this weird shipping with a villain who first he says that they were friends. They were never friends. Cheetah always had this point of, or at least Minerva's, version. She was pretending to be Diana's friend. And then she's like an old hag. I think she was like in her 40s when she first met Diana. So, Diana, with her innocence, she just wanted a friend to, especially with Minerva being an archaeologist and, and just knowing more about history and artifacts and everything like that. And also, I believe it was trying to find Hippolyta's girdle. So it was like that storyline you took from Perez and you've twisted it up and you take away so much of the significance with this weird obsession with trying to make it seem like um, if a character is obsessed with you or mean to you or trying to kill you, you romanticize that.
It encourages stalking when you think about it.
Or that because she's jealous, she's in love with her. No, she's not in love with Diana. She's in love with the power.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. By the way, can I say the other problem that DC is having with KO that I think is like a problem they're gonna have to address is like when I get that they have to solicit the books, but they keep spoiling who wins.
I mean, that's been Snyder's thing forever of
If I remember, and Britt and I watched the DC All In announcement. Remember when they said, "Oh, and there's a new Superwoman. We're gonna reveal who it is. That's gonna be a secret for a while." The next day, oh, it's Lois.
right. And
What?
also, I mean, KO, you already know that Superman is supposed to win because it is, his story. So honestly,
God
the whole
forbid they
fight
do a Wonder Woman story and have her win.
the fight is honestly just Snyder's, again, another Michael Bay moment of smashing toys together. That's it.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's a gimmick. They've returned to the '90s age of gimmicks.
Right. I mean, that can get you so far. And I think that um, Snyder is very creative, um, but he kind of he has to humble it just a little bit because Absolute is only in its a few months into its second year or what, a month, just a month within the second year. And yeah, sales are going to remain high, but like I said earlier, the real test will be the third year. You know,
Yeah.
um, because he can exaggerate Batman and all of that. And it's the same thing as New 52. His New 52 Batman remained, a top seller. But what about all the other books? They eventually started to fall.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like Wes from Thinking Critical, shout out to Wes, predicted that the absolute universe was going to cannibalize the main universe, and look at what's happening.
I mean, yeah, because who cares about the main line?
Yeah, really. When you have this, like, who cares? And there are some people that try and say that, like, oh, people move on from like from the absolute books and read the mainline books. I'm like, I'm not the sales aren't reflecting that.
At all. It is not at all.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm like, guys, you really need to get this. You really need to figure out what you're doing. If you're not gonna, like, let me put it this way: at this point, if you don't know what to do, maybe it's time for new leadership.
Yeah, it definitely is.
Yeah.
Like
So
new leadership, new creativity, people who actually have ideas, and also people who don't try to cater to the TikTok Tumblr crowd who only goes by headcanons and just random nothingness.
hadishes,
Right. And they don't
and tell your
actually read
creators to not to watch what they tweet and stop encouraging these people.
that too. Yeah.
But yeah.
Well,
Mhm.
I mean, DC encouraged, on especially the Instagram um, pages, they are trying to be very much hello fellow kids type thing,
Mhm.
and it it's really just cringe, so cringe.
Well, yeah, exactly. And it's like the more they do that, it's because you also don't have enough younger writers in there. You have a lot of people that were like older, and it's like they never leave. Like, I'm sorry, it's like really Jurgens doesn't know. I don't think Jurgens or all these guys know how to attract newer audience members. I just don't.
They, I mean, I think that's why they've given up though, because they don't know how to attract new audiences, and but they are also stuck in their own ways, so they're just stuck in their ways.
Well, yeah, exactly. But yeah, so I think that's a good place to leave it. This was a great episode. And so Britt, what stories do you want to tease us with?
So, as I continue to say, holidays is when we get chapter 4 of the first story of Shelter, and then the third, and also the third chapter of Odyssey. It's really, those are going to be very happy but sad chapters. Um, the last chapter of Awakens is still in progress, but that will be around the holidays as well. Um, for the plot. Um, and then I have a couple of Wonder Woman threads that
Ooh.
for Twitter, of course. The next thread will be rating the animated iterations of Wonder Woman. Of course, I will take the opportunity to drag the second half of DCAMU. Um, and other options, I did have the option of a New 52 versus Rebirth, but I actually decided to separate them and will do a versus at some point.
It's a good
But
idea.
um, and with that decision, it's to basically analyze both of them, solo to really give my thoughts on both individually. So that next poll will be up on Thursday. Also, I it would be fun to kind of give the history of Diana's children to show that, yeah, she has had multiple children with Clark too. And or majority of her children are with Clark. And I think the last one is team ups, partnerships and team ups, which she has, already, with Clark. We've seen her team up with Black Canary, Zatanna, but others that we need to see more of.
Hell yeah. I cannot wait to see that. And again, be here everyone tomorrow at 3:30, where I will be going through every single issue, and that includes the Trinity series and all of the Trinity backups, everything from his era of Wonder Woman. I will go through because you guys voted for it.
Torture.
You guys, yeah, exactly. You guys voted for it. But anyway, stay at work, everyone. Remember, Lois Lane is the devil and needs an exorcism, and Steve Trevor is the biggest sad sack in comics that deserves to stay in the ground. Zoe is the Max about for life. I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.